Today, in this video, we're going to go over the quantum computing stocks, not just any quantum companies, but the top 5 to be watching right now. So we're going to jump into it. We were starting the day off with a dip buy there on Super Microcomputer. We see CTM is having a great day today. We see some of the markets doing fairly well after hours, but pre-market and into the day, there was some red happening today, but we do see some recoveries here after hours. That's always good to see with SPY and getting into tech. Let's take a look at our quantum watch list. So we're going to jump in here on the quantum side of things. And for those of you guys that are interested in quantum, would love to also take a look at any companies you guys would like to analyze. We're going to start off with the first 5 here, which is going to start with number 5, which is one of the larger companies that might be a little bit less risk, and that's going to be Nvidia. Nvidia is a funny story because, while are they at all-time highs yet? Did they make that full recovery? Yeah, they're all the way up there, and they're basically pulled back, but right at that all-time high. And you might say, well, that's a huge company. Why would they be a top quantum company? Well, we have them at the 5 spot. And the reason why is because when you looked at Rigetti stock, this announcement, see this big dip here, this quantum crash that happened here, this was because of an Nvidia announcement. Nvidia announced that quantum companies are 15 to 30 years away, and Rigetti crashed. IonQ here crashed. You see that big crash right there? QBTS as well had a big crash there. You can see that crash right there from, what was that, $10 or $11 down to $3 a share. So everything crashed. And very shortly after, Nvidia introduced their CUDA Q. Here it is. And the CUDA Q is the hybrid quantum classical computing. And when you search it up, you can see, that they have a whole division now dedicated to quantum computing. So kind of the general overview with how the market's going. It's estimated to get into the trillions of dollars according to Microsoft and IBM. And Nvidia is trying to also lead the way there in quantum. They have some quantum setups here for orchestrating the hardware and the software. And the other thing we see here is the open source platforms for quantum computing. They are looking to achieve, or they're saying they achieve now, up to 2,500x speed up on GPUs, and works well with all QPUs and qubit modalities, and supports scalable hybrid applications. So when we take a look at Nvidia Q2Q, you can see it's a setup for quantum hardware design, open platform, Q2Q performance. So GPU here, multiple GPUs in tandem with quantum computers. Accelerating Google's QPU, their quantum Willow chip, you can see here. And some of the partners include HSBC, you got NERSC, you got some other company. Quantum computing partners include a big list of companies. So we got IonQ, you have IQM, QEra, you have Pascal, along with Quantinium, Quantum Machines, Rigetti. These are all these companies that are in the quantum computing emerging market. Now, as they start to build out their Q2Q, and what they do here is they're essentially taking on the quantum industry. And they are not just building out quantum computing, but obviously they're also in data centers. They're one of the top data center companies. Their financials have been growing very, very fast. And so when it comes to Nvidia, it's just a solid long-term play. So that's why we have them there at number 5. We jump into number 4. Number 4 is going to be this company, LAES. Now, this is a company that I haven't been necessarily bullish on, but that is a company that's worth noting if you're following the quantum computing space. LAES is a pretty small market cap. We could kind of pull up their stock. We'll pull up their financials here. and it's called Sealsq here. Okay. And we're going to jump into the charts as well. So they had a really big spike with the quantum market up to $11 a share back in December and sold off with the market crash, but have never really made a big recovery. They broke out of this downtrend here and have been consolidating, and it looks like they're downtrending now. So maybe they aren't finding a support and it's not looking so hot there. Jose says red wire. We could take a look. Someone else commented, hoping D-Wave does good tomorrow. Hey, that's another thing we'll go into here. And LAES specializes in quantum security solutions for quantum companies. Now, this is something that a lot of times has been fulfilled by the quantum companies. Now, while they have some 3D models here, and you see them in a lot of industries, from device to cloud to provisioning secured identities, identity lifecycle management, data protection, all these things, they have a lot of stock images, and it says Cisco trusts them, Siemens trusts them. We have them at number 4 here because of the uncertainty around their financials. They've had some revenue here quarter over quarter, a tiny bit of growth, but overall net income negative, about 5 million. Annually, they were seeing revenues grow, and then they saw a big drop in 2024. So they're still kind of getting it together. When you look at their balance sheet, though, you do see their total assets are up to $100 million, which is good. So Sealsq LAES has seen total assets growing about 250% year over year, with their liabilities down and shrinking, which is good. So you got their market cap at 343 million, so really small company, and they're trying to build quantum resistance secure chips. I think that they don't have the go to market yet. Like, they have some articles and they're working with different companies to try and build out some things, but ultimately they haven't secured a place in the market for their quantum cybersecurity. So I don't think that they would be one that would be the top 10, top, they're not going to make it most likely into, as of right now, the number 1 spot in any market for quantum right now, because they're kind of operating from a place of, hey, this quantum thing is taking off. Like, we could be there for the cybersecurity, but they haven't really demonstrated a lot of real world value yet. Now, the third company, which is number 3, is going to be IonQ. So IonQ, they actually had their earnings report today after hours, and we'll take a look at what that looked like. They did end up dropping from about $43 a share down to about $38 a share today. So a little bit of a correction there, nothing big. We've seen them consolidating here for the past few months, really since May, and we were kind of expecting maybe a rejection here. It's kind of what's going on. And so IonQ, they're in the quantum market, and they're definitely growing very, very fast from an attention standpoint. They are partnered with Nvidia, they're partnered with Microsoft and Amazon brackets, and they are also in Google Cloud. Now, they have some contracts with NASA and Air Force Research Laboratory. They work with Lockheed Martin and Accenture as well, and that is more in the defense space. So IonQ, their financials are a little bit more shaky, but a little more established. That or not more established, I would say, but more capital that they're working with. So they have about $12 billion in market cap. So they're already up there. When you take a look at their income statement, the revenue is holding true around $10 to $11 million a quarter recently. And they have been increasing their revenue year over year. Now, their net income went negative, but their balance sheet has also looked pretty healthy with their assets pretty high up there, around 500 million. In the last quarter, they saw a spike. They got some more cash influx up to about 850 million. What's going on, Rich? Happy to have you in here. I also see Jim says, any quantum events coming up? You going? Most likely, we will be going to some quantum events. And so, why is IonQ the main focus as number three? Well, they have this trapped ion technology that they're working on building out quantum computers that can calculate using essentially ions, electrons. And they just got some new funding recently, and their chart has basically indicated that they saw that influx really make them. This was the crash back here. They sold off all the way down to about $17, and they recovered from $17 a share up to about $49 a share. Once they made that run through April, they peaked out in May. So IonQ, this is the quantum company that really has been consolidating the last few months. So we see them consolidate here between $36 and $46. They just had their earnings today. And how did that go? Well, they came in with earnings after hours. They were very, very confident in their earnings of that they were going to see some more revenue. When I listened to their earnings call, we didn't do it live on YouTube, but what we found here is they had revenue growth of 80% year over year, so up to 20 million. But they reported about negative 70 cents on the EPS, which did miss estimates. Their guidance, though, for next quarter's revenue was at $27 million, which would indicate some bullish momentum because, again, when we look at their financials, quarterly income statement, in no quarter have they made over $20 million in revenue. And they were guiding essentially in their recent earnings to make $27 million. And they average around 10 to 11 million per quarter. And they're basically saying we're going to make 27 million potentially next quarter. So that's really good guidance. Their stock did fall there. You could see it fell down about 4%, even though they came in with earnings that were pretty bullish for the future. They still didn't come in with maybe the best earnings as they missed the EPS. But they rose 86% though in their revenue year over year. So that's, it's a big increase. But the problem is most likely that we're seeing with them is just that their market cap has been so high. They've surged to, again, 11 billion or $12 billion. And with revenues that are still lagging right now, it's just, a pretty high valuation. So essentially where we're seeing them go right now is correcting back down most likely to this $37 range. The next kind of level that we could watch here, you got the $37 support, pretty strong there. And then this level here is if they were to get a bounce, we would be looking for something like this. If they're going to bounce, it's going to be about a 28% swing. That's normally what they can see when they build their momentum. But again, just kind of really watching them at number three because they could be one of the top companies. And we see some of their partnerships really starting to add up with notable tech companies, the biggest tech companies there in the world. So another comment there, NY says, do you think SoundHound is interesting before earnings? Definitely. I mean, SoundHound or any company before earnings, usually it's not what we like to do is trade right ahead of earnings. It's just not something that you really want to do because of the risk involved. But it's all power to you. It can be hard to execute orders after hours or pre-market, so you don't want to get caught holding companies that you don't want to hold or things like that. So a lot of times if you're holding through earnings, it's not time to really hold a trade, but you'd want to make sure you're in it for the long haul, I guess, if you're going to play the earnings there. Michael Anthony says, have you seen the amount of a loss of how much cash do they have now? Are you talking about IonQ? Yeah, so I mean, the net income was negative, right? That's been the story, but their total assets have been up pretty significantly. So I wouldn't really worry about their financials from from their cash perspective, they're doing just fine. Now, when it comes to number two, this is a company that has been one of the most innovative and best, I would say, at their overall marketing. And their marketing is so good and so forward looking that they seem to be growing tremendously based on the way that they approach the markets just from a communication standpoint. Now, they also have some partnerships, but we're still waiting for them to materialize, and that's going to be QBTS. So QBTS is here as the number two. QBTS, we started covering it around $1 a share, right around 97 cents there. And it started pushing up to about $11 a share before selling back down to about $3 a share after the crash. Then we saw it really hold this uptrend and continue the uptrend into these new levels up to $20 a share by May, and consolidating there from left to right now at $20 a share and trying to hold this upward momentum. Now, D-Wave has their earnings as well. So we had IonQ's earnings today after hours. Tomorrow, pre-market, this is from our StockMate earnings, we have D-Wave reporting pre-market tomorrow. So with D-Wave reporting tomorrow pre-market, this is where we start to see some big moves. Now, we do have some targets out inside of StockMate. We might be a little bit conservative, but it seems like we do have some bullish targets as well. We talked about getting up into this $20 to $25 range if they were really bullish, something like that. Otherwise, we'd be looking for a sell down into this $16 range, right? That's the next level of support. And then if they're even more conservative, the next level of support is about $15 a share. So why D-Wave? What brings us to D-Wave? Well, D-Wave has been developing new quantum technology with their Advantage 2 system. And they build quantum computers that are for NASA. So they have some ongoing NASA contracts. That's part of where their revenue, their consistent income has come from. It's kind of low. So year over year, they've been making increasing revenues, but it's like very small in their increase. They're increasingly negative on their net income, which is not a good sign. So they're investing more in the company, but really increasingly negative, which is not a good sign. But the balance sheet looks fairly disciplined. You see their assets increasing. They get their liabilities low and their total assets up around $325 million. So their balance sheet looks good. So why would they still be kind of hovering with lower revenues and negative net income? It's definitely going to come down to the actual deployment of their systems. They're number two because they have really good marketing. We see them get in the door with MasterCard, with Boeing. When we went to the conference and were able to meet a lot of their executives, including their CEO, we were able to uncover that there was a lot of companies that were showing interest in using the quantum tech. There were statements that they were making, such as powerful, commercial, and trusted quantum solutions that could be more efficient or more powerful than that of GPUs. So they even say it here, maybe let's say, D-Wave's Advantage 2 annealing quantum computer performed a magnetic materials simulation in minutes that would have taken nearly 1 million years and more than the world's annual electricity consumption to solve using classical computer built with GPU clusters. Now, that's a statement that, when they say that, really poses it's pretty wishy-washy because they don't say what type of GPUs. They say classical supercomputers, GPU clusters. Is it like Colossus, like from XAI, because that's the biggest computer in the world? What do they mean? And then, when they talk about the GPUs, the next question is, are they really better than GPUs? And would they be something you would use rather than GPUs? Now, a lot of the people that I talked to at the conference really had a strong interest in using them. That's why Boeing was using them and MasterCard. But MasterCard didn't really turn into much. I don't know if we could find the article, but it started off, MasterCard, this one of the biggest D-Wave partnerships that we saw. Here it's directly from MasterCard. D-Wave Quantum and MasterCard take quantum leap into future of financial services. So this was this announcement. Now this was back in July 18th, 2022. After this, we didn't get any new releases. There weren't any new updates on this move. And then same thing, I think it was Boeing as well. I didn't see the article, but I got to meet some executives there. I don't know. See, Boeing's quantum-based navigation system. It doesn't say QBTS there. They built a quantum computer that may be used by U.S. military. So they are working with Davidson Technologies in Huntsville, Alabama. And there was a partnership with Boeing. But the thing is Boeing was saying we haven't seen any real world usage yet. We're kind of exploring it. And then so far, we haven't heard any new developments around it. So we're kind of on the pause there, kind of seeing, what is next with QBTS. But what we do see is their financials start to heat up a little bit. We want to see their earnings here coming out on what is tomorrow, pre-market. So there you have it. QBTS, they're really looking for continuing that $15 million or more in revenue. That was a sale of a system they sold to Germany. But they're looking to now, it's like, okay, can they also maybe get some money from that Davidson partnership? Or did they sell more quantum computers where they could now see another revenue of around 15 million in a quarter? If so, we could really see them price in with some new money. Otherwise, we could see them aggressively sell off, as if they can't come in with the same type of revenue numbers, we could see a correction. So that's kind of the outlook short term, very volatile. Don't really know where it's going to either bounce between the $16 price point or this $20 price point. Maybe conservatively, it could get down to 15. But on the long term, it's really a play that we have some long-term positions in. We're actually looking to see how they can continue to develop their quantum tech. But again, really volatile right here around earnings. So we got to watch it. I wouldn't take any new positions on them, but they are top two because, again, when it comes to quantum computing, they have really good connections, and it seems that they're working on building something special. They have their own cloud computing. They don't really rely on other big tech companies, but maybe that could be why they don't succeed, because those integrations could see a lot of traffic and potentially see more funding there. So, it's good. It's a top company. I'm in it for the quantum in the long term, but again, in the near term, just expect volatility. Make sure you have a plan there on the short term. So Hector says, hello, Will, everyone. Have you had a chance to look at QUBT? No, we haven't looked there. It's just one that we haven't been able to verify as more legitimate in their quantum computers. And Y says, what do you think sound out for earnings? Yeah, okay. We have the earnings coming up here. We'll take a look. Michael says, have you seen the amount of law? Okay. Crazy Carl, Redwire. They had a revenue reporting there with a 21% loss year over year. We'll take a look at that. What do you think about Rocket Lab as well, Will? Yeah, so Rocket Lab, they're now into some very high valuations, but they're one of the main competitors with SpaceX. So it kind of sees that a lot of companies that we cover here are relying on it. It appears that they're relying on Rocket Lab for a lot of launches. So that's why I would see them grow. So now we're going to get into the, number one. The number one quantum computing company that I find to be the most interesting and most likely the closest to achieving some serious real world usage in their quantum tech is going to be Rigetti stock. Now, Rigetti stock, we started covering it around $1 a share and investing in it back here right before the start of 2025. We saw it surge to about $21 a share there in January before that sell-off there with the quantum news that was from Nvidia. Then we saw them start to gradually recover and make their way up, basically back up to some previous highs. So now they're at the $17 price point. They got rejected, trying to hold this market cap. You know, on the more conservative side, we see them sell down to $15 or even more. On the healthy side would be down 12% to that 1390 range, somewhere in here, kind of get them down here. Otherwise, if they're in the hyper bull type of mode, we see them get up into this $18 price point. Why is Rigetti one of the top stocks that we cover in quantum, and why are they there at number one? I think there's this really interesting thought, right? So if you go over to Amazon or you go to Microsoft, you can see Rigetti is getting published here as one of the top companies that you can actually tap into through the cloud. Now, Rigetti stock also has seen the most unusually bullish institutional buying. You can see 248 increased positions from what are institutions and only 84 decreased positions. So you got BlackRock investing big, Vanguard, State Street, along with Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Charles Schwab. You got Bank of New York Mellon. You got Swiss National Bank, Bank of Montreal, UBS. I mean, we're seeing the biggest institutions in the world heavily investing into Rigetti. And so the institutional buying is crazy, but also the connections that you see with the companies is where things really get interesting. Now, the other thing that really has caught my attention, and this is one of the more speculative reasons to put it there at number one, is that, you know, while we're looking at their next generation of quantum computing, they say the quantum hardware at the core of our systems is cooled by dilution refrigerators. Take a look inside the click on the numbered points. So you got the dilution refrigerator, right? Then you have this signal chain. So these cables, tons of cables here, many cables, deliver and condition microwave signals to and from the chip to drive qubit operations and return measured results. So they're able to actually, this is where they run data through this thing. Temperature stages, so gold-plated copper plates separating the cooling zones. Then you get down to this mixing chamber. So the mixing chamber at the lowest, coldest plate sits the most critical hardware, including amplifiers, additional cables, filters, and the mounts that hold the quantum processing unit. And that's where you get to the QPU. Now, this is where the evolution, I think, could be happening. There are these, how many of you guys have seen the Willow chip from Google? Have you guys seen that Willow chip? So this is a new Willow chip. It looks something like this. It's meant to go inside of quantum computers, okay? And it's developed by Google. Now, how many of you guys have seen the Majorana chip? Let's see. And this is really interesting. So I have seen the Microsoft quantum computer. I don't know if they have a diagram, but basically this is my kind of speculation, I guess you could say. This new quantum chip that is the most powerful chip from Microsoft, their quantum computing chip here, was developed to be in the place of a QPU inside of a quantum computer. Now, when we look at how the quantum computers are designed, you can kind of see how the quantum computers are designed, and you can see their photography and how it looks on their website. It appears, again, this is speculation, but it appears to me that it is the exact same as what is going to fit inside of the Rigetti quantum computers. Now, could that be wrong? It could be, and I'm going to be real with you guys. It is something that maybe I am, speculating again. But when you have this chip here, this is how the chip kind of looks, and you get down to the QPU. So this is the QPU. You see this? Let's pull it up. The QPU of the quantum computer. It looks like this. You guys see it? So basically, this is the QPU, and it almost looks like this thing fits perfectly inside of where the QPU is for the Rigetti quantum computer. Now, this is not a coincidence as they are partners, and it really does to me seem that Microsoft's chip is going to go inside of the Rigetti computer. Now, when we look at where Rigetti is thriving, they are building out this error correction. They are partnered with NASA, Microsoft, and AWS, and they're starting to see the financials come in as well. So they saw some increased revenues there as a result of funding. They saw a net income of 42 million. And A1 Stake says, does it matter how many deals you have if you only have like 10 million in revenue? No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. Usually. Nerf Keshik says, do you think BBAI will be green tomorrow? They recently pulled back and started to get some momentum into after hours. We'll have to see the greater market pre-market tomorrow and how the direction looks. We saw a little bit of accumulation after hours, so we'll have to see if that continues. A1 Stake says, is Microsoft and Google going to hack Satoshi's Bitcoin wallet? Man, that's a great question. When you have, values that could be based, very simply, values that are very simple, I guess there's always the possibility of a hack, but most likely does not happen if the values are very strong and of integrity. And so we'll have to see. But I think total assets here is what you see. Really big increase on Rigetti. Then you see their net income increase as well. And again, the holders are something we're watching there. So financials looking better, looking for their revenue to continue to grow because their net income has also been down. And that's something we want to see, that they continue to see their liabilities drop and the assets continue up. So for Rigetti, we'll be watching this level. They have a support at $15 a share. They don't have earnings this week like the other quantum companies, but we'll be staying up to date on them. Rigetti long term, I'd say looks more promising. The short term, there's a lot of volatility and it's part of the quantum market. And it can be great as we see trends very consistently. For example, like this trend right here, we're able to catch with Rigetti was about a 38% swing here. We actually are up about 51% on that position from Rigetti. And it's all because of, they're pretty consistent in their patterns, but they also have very high volatility. So it requires a very good thought out plan for the short term. So those are them. Those are the top 5 quantum stocks that we are watching here into the summer of 2025. The only thing you have to know is no matter what, if you're going in a short-term position on these stocks, it's going to be volatile. There are even 2x positions we take sometimes. There's RGTX there, which is up 57%. You trade that one as well, or IONX, which we trade, or QBTX. Those are better for short-term. But again, having a plan is very important. And the long-term, I would say, with quantum is one of the most interesting and fastest growing markets we have found. Now, we also cover all of the earnings here, guys, inside of StockMeet. So if you are just getting started learning quantum, or you're learning about data center stocks or space stocks, I would encourage you to check out StockMeet. Just simply take a look. It's the second link in the description. We have all the targets for the week, and we're going live in about 10 hours. We go live every day at market open, right at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you ever want to see us trade live, you can see my entries, see my exits. And we just did a recent study that we found over 24 so far millionaires inside of StockMeet. So if you ever want to surround yourself with other like-minded individuals, we have some good insights, a lot of talk about some of our hottest stocks. We look in AI defense and space tech, and definitely in data centers right now. But if you really are looking for comfort in knowing where you're going and what you're trying to accomplish, StockMe is a great place to start if you're a beginner or you're advanced. And also, you get a free t-shirt. I'll send it to you. We have a sale that's happening right now as we're changing some of our model. Right now, you can get lifetime access to StockMe, and that includes the daily live sessions. So recurring daily live sessions you get lifetime access to, and you don't even have to pay a recurring subscription for the current model that we are changing. So if you want to be a part of it and get in with our current sale, it's again the second link down below. It's closing soon. I would encourage you to simply take a look at that second link below. Now, the last thing I'll leave you guys on is that quantum computing markets are seeing big investments from IBM, Microsoft, Nvidia. Definitely, we're seeing some interest as well from Chinese governments and other governments trying to advance their tech as they're investing a lot in quantum. And we even see the US government putting some money into quantum with this recent $2.7 billion National Quantum Initiative Reauthorization Act. So all I'll say, just to kind of end it off, is long term, I would say is a beautiful market to be watching in a very early stage. In the short term, there's some good opportunities, and there's also a lot of volatility. So that's great for short-term investors if you have a plan. So make sure you have a plan, you have an idea of how you're trading, investing. And again, if you ever want to know how, technicals, fundamentals, you can always check out StockMe down below in the second link. And you can always just tune in here on the YouTube for more information and get things dialed in. Kush says, can't wait to buy Rigetti for the long term. Yeah, that's awesome. Big CO says, what are your opinions on the Eyes Wide Shut 1999? I am not sure. I don't know that I've seen that one. And why? Will, what do you think about Apple's major announcements today? We'll have to take a look at it. This one, there's definitely a lot of good info to chew on with the quantum market. We'll have a video coming out tomorrow on the top robotic stocks. We'll also be doing a top space stocks. So we'll be going into those, and we'll be doing some top AI companies to be watching as well. So make sure to tune in, subscribe if I earned it, and smash that like button if I earned it. See you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks Nerf. Thanks Carl. Thanks Brandon, Michael. We're going to do a space market overview there with Redwire. We'll do a full breakdown. Neil, Steven, thanks for tuning in. Jose, appreciate you. Ariza, appreciate you. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Jay, good to see you here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.